Welcome to the Week 7 edition of Northeast Conference Football Digest. I'm Ralph Ventre, and I'm here to get you ready for the 5 games that are Week 7 of Northeast Conference football. 2 of the 5 matchups are of the non-conference variety, both of them pitting NEC members against Ivy League foes. We'll take a look at those 2 matchups first, and then run down the 3 NEC games on the Week 7 docket. We'll do that all in the next few minutes right here on Northeast Conference Football Digest. Believe it or not, there are only 2 contests in the entire 2012 schedule that pit NEC teams against Ivy League members, and both of those games are right here in Week 7. First, up in Hanover, New Hampshire, where Sacred Heart will visit Ivy League member Dartmouth. Mark Nofri and the Pioneers will renew its recent rivalry with the Big Green, which has seen the 2 sides meet each of the past 3 seasons. Last year, it was Sacred Heart escaping with a 24-21 win over the Big Green when Chris Rogers kicked a 22-yard field goal with a minute left on the clock. This year, Sacred Heart will go up against a 3-1 Dartmouth team, riding high, their only loss at Penn. One thing Sacred Heart has been able to do well against Dartmouth in their recent meetings is throwing the football. The Pioneers' passing attack, which was the top-ranked unit in the NEC in 2011, will look to finally get on track here in 2012 up in New Hampshire. The Pioneers will have somewhat of a tall task in that area, as Dartmouth is the second-ranked team in the Ivy League in terms of pass defense. We'll see if Tim Little and the Pioneers can help the NEC take the season series over the Ivy League for a 3rd straight year. Next, NEC Football Digest takes you to Central New York, where Monmouth has a date with Cornell. It'll be the 3rd straight season Cornell has faced a Northeast Conference member. The Big Red faced Wagner each of the past 2 years, splitting those 2 meetings. This Saturday, Monmouth would like to win the rubber match for the NEC. While Cornell ranks 2nd in the Ivy League in total offense, gaining 420 yards per game, they rank next to last in total defense, surrendering 412 yards per contest. The Big Red's pass defense allows opposing quarterbacks over 250 yards per game, which should bode well for 2-time NEC Offensive Player of the Week Kyle Frazier and the Hawks. And now on to Northeast Conference action. Our first NEC game of Week 7 takes us up to Smithfield, Rhode Island, where Robert Morris will visit longtime nemesis Bryant. The Colonials, who have won 6 Northeast Conference titles, have never beaten Bryant in 4 all-time meetings with the Bulldogs. Bryant's secret to success the last 2 times these clubs have met has been Jordan Brown. The preseason All-NEC running back has accumulated 317 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns over the last 2 meetings with the Colonials. In last year's 34-27 win, Brown averaged 8.1 yards per carry on his way to a 179-yard day. The good news for the Colonials is that Brown has been bottled up by opposing defenses on a number of occasions this season, and Robert Morris's defense looked pretty good last week, going up against one of the nation's top rushing teams in St. Francis, PA. The Colonials held the Red Flash to only 10 points last week and not 1 touchdown on the ground. The bottom line is, fans should be ready for a knockdown, drag-out fight in Smithfield, as these 2 NEC teams are thirsty for a victory. Our next Northeast Conference matchup takes us to New Britain, Connecticut. There, Central will host Duquesne. Both teams are coming off bye weeks, and both were expected to compete for the Northeast Conference title, but that's where the similarities end. Duquesne and Central, both picked high in the Northeast Conference preseason coaches poll, have had two very different starts to the 2012 season. Duquesne has shot out of the gate with a 4-1 record, winning its first two Northeast Conference contests. Meanwhile, Central Connecticut finds itself at 0-5 overall with an 0-2 mark in league play. Although it'll be a very tough road to hike, don't count the Blue Devils out for the Northeast Conference crown just yet. Although not likely, it is possible to win the conference crown with 2 losses on your record. In fact, the Blue Devils did it themselves back in 2005. If they are to make a comeback run at the title, though, it'll have to start this Saturday at home against a very good Duquesne team, which has one of the nation's elite rushers in its offensive backfield. Senior Larry McCoy has 4,099 career yards. He is just 162 shy of becoming Duquesne's all-time leading rusher. In fact, McCoy is just one of 6 NCAA active players at all levels, FCS, FBS Divisions 2 and 3, to have more than 4,000 yards rushing in a career. While Duquesne currently has the NEC's leading rusher in Larry McCoy, Central has been struggling in that area. The Blue Devils lost starting tailback Chris Tolbert to injury before the season even started and are only managing 3.2 yards per carry this year. Another big difference between the two teams: Central has turned the ball over quite often this year with a -5 turnover margin. On the other side of the coin, takeaways have been plentiful for the Dukes and turnovers have been limited. The Dukes are +7 in the turnover margin, and that goes a long way explaining why they're 4-1. And finally, to New York's capital city we go. After posting a win at Bryant on national TV in Week 6, Albany returns home to take on St. Francis in Week 7. It'll be homecoming weekend in Albany, and the opponent will be a rising Red Flash team. Although St. Francis has never beaten Albany in 13 prior tries, this could be the year. After all, St. Francis is off to a record start and has beaten Bryant for the first time ever, while also ending a 6-game losing streak to Robert Morris this season. If Albany is to be next on that list, then the Red Flash will have to have a great day running the football. St. Francis ranks amongst the top 10 rushing teams in the entire football championship subdivision, and their 5.2 yards per carry average is tied for first in the Northeast Conference. The only problem is, when it comes to stopping the run, Albany is one of the best in the NEC. The Great Danes are allowing opponents a measly 3.3 yards per carry and have held them to only 6 rushing touchdowns, another NEC low. Not only can they stop the run, but the Great Danes can run the football too. After all, their 5.2 yards per carry average is tied with St. Francis atop the NEC, and no NEC team has more rushing touchdowns than Albany's 18 this season. So keep an eye on the St. Francis-Albany matchup this week and see which team, if either, runs away with a victory. So there you go. That's a little about what Week 7 on the NEC Gridiron should look like. Thanks for joining us for this edition of NEC Football Digest, and we look forward to having you back for Week 8 right here on NECFrontRow.com. Once again, for NEC Productions, I'm Ralph Ventre, and this is NEC Football Digest.